Hello, this is Brian Hegney, instructor of Game and Interactive Media Design. This is the end product of the series of tutorials coming up on how to model a game character. In fact, there's probably billions of ways to model a game character, so in essence it depends on the nature of your character. What we're going to go through is how I modeled the legs, the pot, the head, the arms. This is all one mesh, and this is not quite ready to be animated, but it could be animated if we just add a few tweaks. And this is, yeah, this is a strange creature. It's like a pot creature, wooden guy, right? And so, in a sense, what you'll learn coming from here is how to model this character, and you can apply that to any other character you want to model in the future. And so we'll cover modeling it, we are going to unwrap it, we are going to create the textures in Photoshop, and we're going to bring it into Unreal Engine and apply those materials. And create a shader based off of those textures that we created in Photoshop. And if we look, we can see, hey, what are those textures? It's Pueblo 2, no, Pueblo. And we are going to create a material with shaders, roughness, normals, and this diffuse map here, right? So that's what we will do. And to get started, though, I want to talk about maybe how you don't... 'cause this is a fairly weird character, right? I mean, if I were to ask you to go look for a T-pose for a character, it likely wouldn't be this guy. It might be something else. So I think what I want to do is just go and kind of look. Not Super Mario. If you were to look for a T-pose character, you'd get a lot of these, right? And so what you will also notice is they're not quite T-poses. And I think I mentioned this in another video, is that T-poses actually are not quite good for your mesh when it's animated and walking around. And so it's better if your arms are like 45-degree outward, because then your shoulders aren't going to be distorted when you actually model it. So what you need is a image of the character facing exactly forward and an image of your character facing exactly to the left or the right in order to start modeling them. And again, it's like the three-quarter view is good to know about your character. And I'm going to try, well, I was finding a lot of the three-quarter views, right? So here's a three-quarter view. Here's the front view, three-quarter view, back view. There's no side view. So it would be difficult to use this in 3D modeling, but this looks like a 3D model anyway. If somebody draws their stuff, you're going to give it to the modeler. Well, you're not going to give them... You will give them all these three-quarter views, but to start the model, we really need a front view and an actual side view. So let's go ahead and get into 3D Studio Max. I'm going to set one up that I downloaded just a moment ago. So we are going to start in 3D Studio Max. And in order to get those planes on there, or in order to get the images on here, we want to see the images in 3D Studio Max in order to model. So let's go ahead and create planes. We are going to create simple planes. I'm going to set these planes up to be 1 by 1 by 1 segment, or I mean 1 by 1 segment. I'm going to draw my first one in the front viewport and let go. And I'm going to keep that. I'm going to eventually draw another one, but I'll show you how in a moment. I'm going to right-click to disable the plane creation view, and now I'm going to create my material to place on it by clicking on the material editor. I'm going to create a standard material just by dragging it out into the viewport. Let me make this a lot bigger so you can see it. And I have an image already in my downloaded from my from the internet, so I'm going to drag a little node off of diffuse, go to general, and go to bitmap, and then click it and navigate to where that is. So I'm just going to use this standard male image. You'll see this Pueblo image here that I've actually created to for the next video, but I'm going to use this standard male. It's a bitmap. And when we drag this, I just want you to know this is a really confusing part of 3D Studio Max. And if I drag this material into this plane, it actually doesn't show up. And the reason why it doesn't show up is every single time you make a material, you need to click the actual material here. In this case, it's material number 25. I'm going to double click that so it opens up in the material number 25 standard window, and I'm going to rename that to front. That's going to be the front of my thing. And I'm going to click this button right here. Very important. Show shaded material in viewport. Bam. All right. And when I do that, you can see that image here. Now, which part of this image do I want to show up in my front plane? The front guy, the guy on the left. So what I'm going to do is double click now the image part, the bitmap that's dragged into diffuse. Double click it. It's going to open up all sorts of properties on the right window here. And what I'm going to click is view image underneath bitmap parameters. Bitmap parameters. Click view image, and I am able to crop this image here. I'm going to leave the height, that's fine, and say close. Now nothing changes until I click apply, and now he's right there. Good job. I'm going to make a second image, or a second material. I'm going to make a second material, double click it, I'm going to call it side. And I'm going to drag out diffuse again. Diffuse, let go, general, bitmap. And I'm going to grab that image again, double click that image, and I'm going to click view image, and now I'm going to get the side. Here we go. And of course I'm going to check apply. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is click the overall side material and make sure I click show shaded material in viewport. Good job. Now, over here, back to my thing here, I'm going to tap W. I'm going to, no, not W, I'm going to tap E to rotate it, and I'm going to hold down Shift and rotate. But before I do, if you already did, I often do that like by accident, I'm just going to say cancel. Because what I want to do is make sure my angle snap is enabled. Not 3D snap, angle snap. And now I'm going to hold down Shift, left click, drag it in the Z axis, and make sure it snaps to 90 degrees. You see those bright yellow letters or numbers over there. Let go. I want to copy. Yes, plane 2 is fine. I'm probably going to call this and say plane underscore left. And now I'm going to actually move these in this direction and that direction. I'm going to call this plane something else. I will call it plane underscore right. And there's one last thing I need to do to both of these planes, which I could have done it beforehand. Number one, I need to make sure that they are, when I hide them, that they don't show up as gray. Or, I'm sorry, when I freeze them. So I could right-click and say freeze selection, and it's going to lose the image. Like, the good news is I can't accidentally move that plane. The bad news is, oh my gosh, I can't see it. So I'm going to hit Control-Z, or Command-Z if you're on a Mac. And I'm going to uncheck frozen in gray. And now I can right-click and say freeze selection, and it's not going to freeze. But before I do that, before I actually freeze it, I'm going to set this one and do the same thing, show frozen in gray. Uncheck show frozen in gray. The last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to open up my Scene Explorer. It's going to pop up here on the left side. And I want to actually click this button down here on the bottom of the Scene Explorer called Sort by Layer. If you don't see it, drag your image out a little bit more. If it's too small or not wide enough, you won't see that Sort by Layer. I'm going to click Sort by Layer. Notice these planes are in my default layer. I'm actually going to drag this out a little bit more so I can see the plus to create a new layer. I'm going to call this Reference Planes. And I'm going to go ahead and spell it properly. rename. I just need to make that L lowercase, and then I'm going to select these planes and drag them into reference planes. Now I can like hide them whenever I want, and I can also freeze them whenever I want, and I can just freeze that overall layer, and as long as just the planes are in there, it freezes both of them. And I'm ready to start my modeling. And I'm going to save this as, I'm going to save this into, hold on, and I'm just going to save this into my Max folder, and I'm actually going to make a new folder called Not Pueble, because this is, I'm going to leave this for you, but this is not Pueble, this is just Standard Mal. Okay, what you noticed, or what I just noticed after I was going to start modeling, is that I have this side image actually showing the front, because I never updated it to the new material. So if you were waiting for me to do that, and waiting for me to fall flat on my face, well, you just saw it happen. So now I never took this side material and dragged it onto this plane. And what you'll see is, oh, Lorsh, he's facing the other way. I don't want him to face that way. I want him to face the other way. It's just a simple way of saying, what could I do? I could do a couple things. I could go into View Image. I can flip that image. Where do I flip the image? Hold on. Oh yeah, so if this is you, like I could rotate the image and put it on the other side, I could, and he'd be facing the proper direction, or I could just click on my coordinates and say mirror the U, not the, oh no, not mirror. I'm going to change tiling to -1. Yes, there we go. -1 in the U. I think if I did it for the V, -1 would put it upside down, and that's not what I want to do, so I'll set that to 1. Tiling is fun if you want to tile a material over and over and over again. We're not going to use this in game design as much. Okay. Alright, now that we have that, the other problem is if I look to the left, in my left viewport, and turn this on to see that, you'll notice he's distorted. So all I want to do is click this plane, or click the Modify tab with my plane selected, and make sure my width is set so he's all normal. Okay, now when we orbit in our 3D plane, hey, we've got a normal looking dude here, and we are ready to model now. Bye. Hey, this is Brian Hegney, instructor of game and interactive media design. So we are just about ready to model. The last thing I might want to do is get my size for these people appropriate. So if I go to my front view, and if I go to customize unit setup, I might realize, okay, I'm in centimeters, that's great. I am going to select this and say this is 150 centimeters, 156 centimeters. So what I did was I said, okay, you know what, a 6-foot male is about 180 centimeters, right? So I set my home grid to 25 centimeters. You know what, let me just set this to 180 centimeters. That will be much easier. And now I can create the height of this so that this guy is standing in between 180. And then, of course, make him look as wide as he needs to. I'm going to copy this same thing for this dude. So he is going to be grab the length, copy, paste the length there, and then of course go into my left view and scale him properly. There we go. And are these guys not on the same XYZ? So I'm going to double click the Z value of my move tool and I'm going to paste them there. And now they should be ready to go. And now I'm going to freeze them and start modeling.